Well, the sky's blue today. There's a few patchy clouds around. It's actually starting to warm up nicely for spring. Grass is starting to green up nicely, and you'd nearly be excused for thinking all is well here in the land of milk and honey, but as this grass greens up, there's certain areas of this lawn that are not greening up, which leads us to believe I've actually got some spring dead spot. So in today's video, give a quick look at the spring dead spot, talk about some of the things that have potentially caused it to be a thing here for me, and what are some of the things that you guys can do at home to deal with this little bugger should it pop up. So stick around for today's episode on spring dead spot. Okay, so this is spring dead spot here, and what spring dead spot is actually a disease of the root system. And what it tends to do is it tends to rot the root system away. And what we might do is we'll take a core sample of this in a minute, because the root system here should be sort of brown to black and rotting away. So we'll take a little core sample using a Pro Plugger, and then we'll test an area that's not affected and just sort of have a look and see if we can see any visual differences. But anyway, so that's what it is. It's basically a root disease that is predominantly cooch only. It will affect occasionally some zoysia, but it will not affect, generally speaking, there's no issue with buffaloes and kikuus and stuff like that. It is predominantly a cooch disease, and the hard thing is it's not that easy to treat. So there's no point now putting any sort of fungicides or anything on this at the moment, because the horse has already bolted, and what we're actually seeing now is the results of what's already happened as opposed to a disease that's actually happening now. So how this sort of works is during the sort of cooler, wet autumn and winter, the disease itself favours those sort of temperatures around that sort of 15-degree mark. And obviously cooch grass, its roots are most active at that sort of 25 to 30-degree mark. So you've got a situation here where the disease is able to get a really strong hold on the cooch grass. So it's unable to sort of fend it off, and it sort of takes advantage of that situation, and that's how it sort of comes to be. Now, as I said there before, there's no point putting any chemicals on this right now. The time to apply chemicals as a preventative is more at the end of summer and into autumn. So I'll list a couple of products on the screen now. I'll chuck a photo up. Syngenta now do a couple of controls. But look, this here, and how to identify it, you're going to notice, obviously, to start with, as the grass around it greens up, this areas here won't green up because these areas are affected by the disease. So you're looking for this straw colour in the turf. Now these patches can range anywhere from 1 centimetre right up to 1 metre, just depending on the severity and how long it's been here, because this here will reappear for the next few years without question, and potentially it will grow a little bit larger. Now, how can you avoid this sort of a thing? If you've been using high amounts of nitrogen fertiliser right at the end of your summer season, you need to sort of cut that back a bit, because the high nitrogen is actually just going to favour the disease in the soil and on the root system. So we need to cut that right back. Now, what we can do to improve this situation now is to start using fertilisers that are higher in potassium, higher in potash. So obviously your potassium, for example, or your potash is for your overall health and vigour of the plant. It enables the plant to withstand the more difficult times, so the cool winters, the droughts, and fighting off diseases. Your phosphorus, for example, is about feeding roots. Now, considering we've just had a root attack, that's a really good thing to do. But once again, we really want to manage our nitrogen levels and be, I guess, what's what I'm looking for? Resist temptation just to pump a heap of nitrogen into a lawn, especially late in the season, just to get some growth out of it, because it's not ideal, and it's going to open up avenues such as this one here. So to keep that in mind, we're going to increase and use heavier amounts of phosphorus and heavier amounts of potash or potassium now going forward. If we've got areas built up of heaps of thatch, so if we've got lots of thatch, it's a good time to thin that out. And obviously we're going to come into spring pretty soon, renovations, I'm going to do that. I don't have a huge thatch issue here, and I didn't actually give it a huge amount of nitrogen leading into winter. I do feel though that potentially my potassium levels are a little low, and I hope to confirm that with some soil testing going forward. So look, let's take a little core sample, let's have a look what's happening under the ground here, and we'll see if we can see any real difference between what's happening here and perhaps what's happening over here. Okay, straight away I noticed two things when I took these plugs out. Number one, this one went in the ground pretty easily and there was no resistance when it came to pulling it out. We have got some roots here and that's probably about 10 centimeters or 4 inches down, and they're not overly, they're looking dark, so they're looking black, and look, just a little bit of pull and they come away quite easily. So, so far we're looking on schedule to having our spring dead spot. When I come over here to the healthy sample, the first thing I noticed when I took this plug was it was reluctant to pull out of the ground. I could feel roots coming away. Now there's some roots here and they're longer than the 4 inches. And when I can actually hold this little plug by hanging onto one tiny root. Now, if I can find one here, it's going to do it, but it's not. Yep, I didn't find it there. So that one there, let go. That one there, let go. I'll break a bit of this away and have a look and see what we've got going on. So I've got a nice sandy profile here. It's not heavy clay or anything like that. But yeah, look, this is just coming away quite easily. There's no real resistancy. So that's what we're looking at. And that's probably a good test that you guys can do at home too. Look, there's another bit there. It just sort of comes away. It's black, it's cactus, it's no good. So that's a pretty much fair indicator to me that that's what we're dealing with. It's just all, yeah, just coming away like that. I'll have to clean that up in a minute. This one here is our live healthy plug. Again, it's much more tricky to pull away. When I do pull the dirt away, the roots are light and healthy looking. They stick out past the soil, and you can see there between the two how different they are. So that's a good little test to do at home. If you've got a funny little patch that appears this time of year, you can try that yourself and see. But that's what we're dealing with. Righto guys, well I hope you've enjoyed this little look today at spring dead spot. As I said, if you suspect you've got something of it at home and you've got access to a pro plugger or something like that, do a little experiment like I did over there. Just have a look, compare some healthy grass to some unhealthy grass, see what you come up with. But as I said, that's what I've got here. Hope you've enjoyed today's episode. We'll catch you here next time on the Aussie Lawn.